Welcome to another episode of Chad Sports Talk. As y'all know, my name's Chad. Take a dive on all sports. And this is going to be my week 3 video for the College Bowl season. That's right, we're getting close to the end to crown will be considered the college FBS national champion. And kind of see how things kind of play out. In case y'all have been keeping up with current events, there's been 5 bowl games that have been canceled due to teams being able to pull out because they don't have enough players. Some pulled out way early, which allowed for the bowl to find a replacement. Others last minute, leaving teams just standing there at the altar and trying to figure out what happened. And I don't see many of these bowls being rescheduled so they could bring in more losing teams. They only have one team that got accepted with a losing record. Gotta let you know there's way too many bowl games, but that's a video for another time. So, can I do a recap? My first week, I actually finished off 10-2, which I did really well. Currently, right now, I am 5-3 on the current bowls. That's including there's 4 games for week 2's season that have been canceled. So the Hawaii Bowl, the Military Bowl, the Holiday Bowl, and the Fenway Bowl all been canceled. No replacements. So 4 of those schools are left there waiting. So Memphis, NC State, East Carolina, and SMU can't, put that cherry on top of their season with a bowl game. And I'll kind of go through this next week. There's a couple changes going on with some of these bowl matchups. So we'll just go ahead and dive right into the game starting on December 30th, and we'll start with the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Yeah, sorry, this is just a weird title for a game. I understand that's, the sponsor, but this is the 20th edition of the bowl game there in Charlotte, North Carolina. So it says currently being sponsored by Duke's Mayo. Has been there for a few years now. And this normally, brings in the ACC and SEC, and this year brings in 2 6-6 squads, former ACC rivals, North Carolina and South Carolina. That's right, South Carolina was originally in the ACC when it launched, and then left, and finally found its way in the SEC. So overall, the head-to-head between these two is 35-19-4 in favor of the Tar Heels. And this is going to be the 59th meeting between these two schools. And right now, the Tar Heels are favored, according to time of this video, by 9.5. Sam Howell's pretty much, the guy you got to look out for. And in looking at this matchup, I'll lean towards more North Carolina because you have Mac Brown, who is very, very a good coach. Did a very good way to kind of get this team 500. Had some good strides here and there, but I'll give the edge to the Tar Heels. But I think it'll be closer to 9.5. Next up, we'll head up to Nashville for the 23rd edition of the Music City Bowl. This is normally a tie-in between the right now the Big Ten SEC, and it'll feature the 8-4 Purdue Spoilermakers taking on the 7-5 Tennessee Volunteers. This is going to be only the second all-time meeting between these two, which is kind of weird, because the first meeting was the 1979 Blue Bonnet Bowl, in which Purdue won 27-22. This is going to be a very good season. And like I said, the Boilermakers gets the moniker of the Spoilermakers, because they knocked off a lot of ranked teams in the Big Ten to kind of spoil their seasons, especially Iowa was the biggest one they had. And this is Purdue's second trip to Nashville. In 2018, they happened to get blown out by Auburn. This is actually Purdue's 20th bowl overall. And since that loss, they haven't been to the bowl since now. For Tennessee, this is their 3rd trip to play in-state. Last time they were there was 2010 when they lost to, first time they were there was 2010 where they lost to North Carolina, and then 2016 they beat Nebraska. And this is the 54th overall bowl game for the Volunteers. And this is definitely one of these good quality schools. Right now, Tennessee is favored by 6. I get it. They're home. They're going to have a huge home court advantage, basically, because they're playing in-state, right down the road in Knoxville, just traveling in-state into Nashville. So there'll be more part of Tennessee fans than Purdue fans, but I have a feeling Purdue will live up to the role of Spoilermakers and edge out Tennessee. Next we'll feature one of the New Year's Six Bowls, and we'll go into the 54th edition of the Peach Bowl. This will bring in ACC champion Pittsburgh, who is 11-2, take it on, a very good Big Ten school, Michigan State, who is also 10-2. This will be the 8th meeting between these two programs. Michigan State leads the series 6-0-1. This is actually their first Peach Bowl appearances for both schools. One thing is kind of take away. Kenny Pickett will not be playing this game for Pitt. He is opted out for the draft. And same thing for Kenneth Walker for Michigan State, their star running back. He's also opted out. So you get the two big-time players both going, nope, I'm not playing this game. Doesn't mean nothing because of we're not playing for a national championship, so I'm gonna go and prepare for the draft. The aspect coming in where you have both of your big time talents on either side of the ball for both teams on the offense opting out right now. So for Pittsburgh, that puts a big damper on their offense output since Pickett is out. And I had to make a change really quick on my picks. I totally forgot about that. And with Walker out, doesn't really hamper Michigan State too much because still have the rest of the offense there. It's going to be a defensive showdown between these two programs. Both have really good defenses. Michigan State's, I think, is a little bit better. Definitely better than what they did against Ohio State. Ohio State lit them up. But Pitt, I don't think, has that quarterback ready to replace the phenomenal numbers that Pickett produced. And I think right now Michigan State's favored about 2.5, and nothing's going to be right. Things going to be no more than a 3-point victory for the Spartans. Next off, we're going out to the bright lights in the desert, the 29th edition of the Las Vegas Bowl. Now that they played in their brand new digs in Allegiant Stadium, and they kind of readjusted their affiliation tie-ins. Yes, this bowl used to be, one for the Mountain West champion. Now it's turned to a Pac-12 home. And this year, feature a pair of 8-4 schools, Wisconsin and Arizona State. And this will be the 5th meeting between these two programs, with Arizona State leading the series 3-1. The most recent meeting was back in 2013. This will be Wisconsin's first trip to Las Vegas Bowl, at ASU's 3rd. And they lost their previous 2 trips in 2011 to Boise State, 2018 to Fresno State. So looking at that right now, Wisconsin was favored by 60. I think Wisconsin went on a huge run when they turned around their season, and pretty much after losing to Notre Dame, this is when Wisconsin finally flipped the switch, started playing the way we expect Wisconsin to play. They were going after teams left, right, and center, made a good run. Arizona State started off strong, and then they kind of tailored off towards the end, losing games they probably shouldn't lose. And it was just a calamity of different things that fell wrong for the Sun Devils. And I think in this one, like I said, Wisconsin's favored by 6. I see that happening, and I'm going to have Wisconsin knocking off the Sun Devils to get that 9th win of the season. All right, well, next up will be would have been the Arizona Bowl. This bowl game's been played since 2015. Came same time frame as the Cure Bowl. Would have featured Boise State and Central Michigan, but Boise State ended up pulling out of this game due to issues with the team that affected the number of players being able to suit up for the game, and Central Michigan was then looking elsewhere, and I'll discuss a little bit later on, to where they end up going. But then the Barstool Sports was who was the prime sponsor and also the broadcaster. Pretty much said the Arizona Bowl has been canceled outright and will not be happening this year down there in Tucson. Now, for Central Michigan, they had to look for a new home, and one presented itself. So, here comes the 87th edition of the Sun Bowl. Was originally scheduled to feature Washington State taking on Miami. However, Miami wasn't able to play due to positive cases, whatnot, and the officials of the Sun Bowl reached out to Central Michigan to have them move over and play there, since you're just going from Tucson to El Paso, just taking the I-10 through southern New Mexico, and there you go. So it's not that far off, probably a few hours drive. So that kind of makes it a little bit easier. So, and this will be the first time that these two programs be facing off against each other. So, like I said, the recurring theme I had the previous week, we had a bunch of first time matchups, and we'll have it here. And Washington State has appeared in 2 Sun Bowls, winning both the 2001 and 2015 editions. For Central Michigan, this is their first time being in the Sun Bowl, and with this one's kind of hard to figure out who's going to be, because these guys were preparing for other schools. So Central Michigan was studying tapes on Boise State, and Washington State was studying tapes on Miami. So neither one of them really have a true advantage in terms of this game. And with that being said, right now Washington State's favored by 7 because they kind of figured the big time program's probably a little bit better time taking advantage because they're preparing for a Miami. I don't think it's going to be a 7-point victory, but I do see Washington State taking winning this one. But I think it'll be a lot closer than what a lot of people would like to think it's going to be. And next up would be the 77th edition of the Gator Bowl. This was originally scheduled to be, the ACC runner-up Wake Forest taking on Texas A&M. But Texas A&M withdrew super early from this game. Because you got, he had a breakout of positive cases and then a bunch of injuries with few players. They definitely didn't have enough to suit up. They pulled out. Then the bowl decided to go through some other things. The NCAA Football Oversight Committee used a academic progress rate calculations of the 5 and 7 schools to figure out who's going to be the best option. This is a time frame before a lot of these other schools were looked at. So this is before all the other bowl games started canceling. So this is the reason why they went to a 5 and 7 school. And Rutgers actually finished first in that APR ranking. And they were given the option to accept a bid to the Gator Bowl. And also the NCAA gave them permission to postpone it till up to January 10th so they could find a replacement. But they decided to reach out to Rutgers Figured they just do it right away, so that way it gives the school enough time to get everything in place. And without changing the date, Rutgers accepted and be a 5-7 program taking on Wake Forest. And I don't think it's going to be much of a contest between these two. Right now, Wake's favored about 14.5. I expect that to be a whole lot more. I really expect Wake to come in there and just smack around the Scarlet Knights. We'll have our semifinal matchups. That's right, they call it football playoff games. Will be taking shape in here. This will also have the 86th edition of the Cotton Bowl, which will feature number 1 Alabama taking on number 4 undefeated Cincinnati. This is the 6th meeting between these two, and Alabama's won them all. The last time they played each other was 1990, so definitely a different time frame in which, of the Cincinnati football program. The weird thing is, this is the second year that the Tide have played at AT&T, because last year the Rose Bowl got moved to Arlington, so that way they can play. And this one, this is, both schools are trying to claim that underdog status, because Alabama's looking at Cincinnati as being, undefeated. They played the underdog in the SEC championship game against Georgia and used that catalyst to wreak havoc on the Georgia, the defensive wise, offensive wise. Cincinnati's going to look at that. They're the group of 5 member finally cracking the playoffs, and all that pressure's on them to represent every other member of the group of 5 before they move up to the Big 12. So they have all that pressure on them, also being the only undefeated program this year. So Cincinnati's got all that pressure on them to put themselves as the underdog, and they thrive on that aspect. But, this is one of these things I think Alabama's going to be just too much for them. Bryce Young has a phenomenal quarterback, Heisman Trophy winner, over 4,300 yards passing, 43 touchdowns. The Alabama defense is no joke. Cincinnati's secondary is going to give Young problems all throughout the game. They're able to shut down some of the prolific passing attacks. Quite handily took care of the Irish, SMU, Houston. So they had some big time wins, and I think it's going to be too much Tide in the end. Tide right now is favored about 13.5 time this video. I think it'll be closer. I really think that Cincinnati can, make some noise early on, but I'm going to give the nod to the Tide to move on to Indianapolis. Now the other side, to figure out that matchup, we have our 88th edition of the Orange Bowl. This will feature number 2 Michigan Wolverines taking on number 3 Georgia Bulldogs. These are two schools that did extremely well between this season. Michigan finally got over a hurdle of Ohio State. Finally cracked that, got that Big Ten title. They're in the playoffs. Some people actually said they should be number 1. It's just how they just handled toward that end of the season, where they just came out and dominated where they had to. Their only stumble block was Michigan State, but hey, Georgia went through there and just mowed throughout that regular season until they got Alabama in the SEC championship game and just laid an egg. So there's a lot of things that Georgia has to, reassert itself as a dominant force. They were the dominant team in the nation for so many weeks. They only get manhandled by the Tide, which seems to be a recurring theme with that program, especially with Nick Saban in charge. But going back to this game, this is the third meeting between these two, and the last time that Georgia won, or this last meeting was in 1965, where Georgia beat Michigan 15-7. So it was a long time between these two programs facing off. Right now, Georgia's favored by 7.5. Because I really think that Georgia defense is looking to reassert itself on that national stage. And Michigan's definitely one of these programs that could be hampered by a good defense, but Michigan's defense is not to be taken lightly either. I really think it's going to be a defensive showdown. I think it's going to be a lot closer than 7 points. And I'm going with Big Blue. I'm taking the Wolverines in this one. So I really don't want to see an SEC rematch. I mean, I think we need to get beyond, the level of the SEC, but that's just my opinion. But I think Michigan will pull out some unique aspects and be able to slip past Georgia in this one. Continue on with our New Year's Six bowls. We'll go with the 51st edition of this year's Fiesta Bowl, played out there in State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona, which will feature the 11-1 Notre Dame and the 11-2 Oklahoma State. Believe it or not, this is the first time these two programs have faced off. And this is going to be a new aspect for Notre Dame because Kelly is no longer the head coach. He's now down there in LSU, picking up a Southern accent. And Marcus Freeman has been named the new head coach. So this is his first head coaching duties is to take on Oklahoma State. And that's not a lightly thing to take lightly with them. And if you look at Notre Dame's history, especially when it comes to the big-time bowl games, since Lou Holtz has left, that has not been very good. But I think Freeman's just one of these coaches that the players really love. You should see the excitement when he was announced to the team that he was the head coach, how well the players just responded to him. I think he's going to bring a different type of intensity to this, and probably see the players kind of respond a little differently to him. Right now, Notre Dame's favored by 2.5. I think it's going to be that close because Oklahoma State is definitely one of those teams that you cannot count out. I don't know, always seems to find a way to come back in games, especially in shootouts. But I think Notre Dame's defense should be able to tame it just slightly, and I think Notre Dame will edge out Oklahoma State in this one. And the next one will be the granddaddy of them all, the 108th edition of the Rose Bowl out there in Pasadena. It's going to be a huge matchup. This is, of course, the old school matchup between the Pac-10 and the Big Ten, or excuse me, Pac-12 and the Big Ten. And this year will feature the Pac-12 champion, Utah, taking on pretty much, I guess, the number 3 seed, Ohio State. This is only the second time meeting between these two programs. Last time they faced off was back in 1986, where Ohio State thumped Utah 64-6. This is back when Utah was back in the old WAC, the old wiggly whack. This is the 16th trip for the Buckeyes out there to Pasadena. This will be the first time that the Utes will make the trip out to Pasadena. Currently, Ohio State's favored by 4.5 because Utah's got a ferocious defense. And Ohio State does tend to struggle against those defenses. But with this one, I definitely see Ohio State performing a lot better than I think Oregon did. So I'll also go with Ohio State on that one as well. And to finish off our New Year's Six bowls, we go to the 80th edition of this Sugar Bowl out there in New Orleans. This year featured the Big 12 champion Baylor Bears at 11-2, taking on the Ole Miss Rebels at 10-2. This will be the second meeting between these two teams, and the Bears ended up beating the Rebels 20-10 in 1975 back in Waco. It's going to be a huge matchup between these two schools. Right now, Ole Miss is favored by 1.5, so it's almost a pick'em game, and it's just kind of how Ole Miss is. Baylor does have a good defense, but the offense does tend to struggle a bit, and Ole Miss is definitely one of these offenses you cannot give them an inch because they will take it 10 miles. And I'll definitely see Ole Miss be able to do that, and I will also go with Ole Miss on this one. But to continue on, there's a couple more games still left on the docket for January 1st, and we'll still have the 36th edition of the Outback Bowl, sponsored by Outback Steakhouses. This will feature the 7-5 Nittany Lions taking on the 8-4 Razorbacks. And once again, it's the first time that these two schools have faced off. I find that a little interesting since how long both these programs have been playing football. Right now, Arkansas is favored by 1. So, and this one, I kind of see it that way. That Penn State's done extremely well, but I will. And Arkansas's had one of those fantastic years. Unfortunately, had that losing streak that really hampered their abilities slightly. But I'll give the edge slightly to Penn State in this one. Next, we'll head up to Orlando for the 76th edition of the Citrus Bowl. Those will feature the Kentucky Wildcat at 9-3 against the 10-3 Iowa Hawkeyes. Believe it or not, this will be the first meeting between these two. This will be the second trip for the Wildcats to the Citrus Bowl. And this is also the second trip for Iowa. Last time Kentucky was here was 2019. Last time Iowa saw these confines was 2005. Right now, Kentucky is favored by 3. Kentucky definitely had a very good season. Some injuries kind of really hampered their ability to produce. Iowa kind of had some huge letdowns towards the end of the season and just kind of stumbled across the finish line. And I will also go with Kentucky on this one. Next off, we go to January 4th. It's right, the last last bowl before the championship game. Will be the 15th edition of the Texas Bowl. This will feature the 6-6 LSU Tigers taking on the 7-5 Kansas State Wildcats. This will be the second time meeting between these two programs. LSU won the previous meeting 21-0. But Brad Davis will be coaching the Tigers in this one. So a little different coach going into this matchup. Players realizing there's a few things changing. Right now, K-State's favored by 3.5. But LSU is just one of these weird teams where they really seem to thrive in certain situations, and I kind of see them do the same thing. I think they will be able to edge out K-State, probably beating by like 1 or 2 points. So there you go. There's week 3's bowl action. There's only one more college bowl preview, and that's be right before the national championship game, which is tentatively scheduled for January 10th, right there in Indianapolis. One thing to note for the college football playoff, they have implemented that if no team can able to fill their roster due to positive cases, that they will pretty much put that as a loss for that team, and the other team will move on or be able to win the national championship. So got to keep that in mind as well. So these players will make sure they're going to stay, protect themselves the best they possibly can, avoid situations that could, hinder the team winning that national championship. So, like I said, this will be the last one. See how I do. Like I said, 10-2 the first week. Right now, I'm 5-3 currently, with like 3 games being played today. Due to a lot of cancellations, the week kind of got a little short. Kind of let you know they kind of need to reevaluate how many bowl games you really need for the end of the season. I have come up with a different scenario. I did a video earlier that did a expanded playoff to 12. That's what they're trying to do later on. I have another one where I came up with a FCS style playoff system to incorporate the bowls and give a few other bowl games out there to other deserving schools. Kind of make the changes a little bit. I'll be working on that one. Also, there's another one where I'm going to do another realignment video. So working on that one. Don't worry. I haven't forgot you on that one. And so I got to figure which one to do next. And, this is going to be a definitely interesting time frame in terms of this week. There's a lot of great matchups. I'm really looking forward to the Fiesta Bowl just because, Irish fan, of course. And we're going to see how the playoff kind of manifests itself. Hey, let me know what you think about these bowls. Which game are you looking forward to? Who's your pick to face off January 10th, the National Championship in Indianapolis? Right now, mine's Michigan, Alabama. who you got. I mean, I love to hear from y'all. I love interacting with y'all. I want to see our passion kind of flow out in there. While you're there, go ahead and smash that thumbs up for me. Please, YouTube gods, helps promote this video, especially if you like this content and when I bring you where you're there. You also subscribe. Hit that bell notification. Let you know the next time you post a video. And I'll see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.